Oh, and by the way, you guys, I just noticed that the Neo Geo, the Neo Geo console was not on that list that I did. So please excuse, everything that you're about to see on this video. Just to give you a heads up, the Neo Geo was not on this list. So I just wanted to just throw this in here. Now the Neo Geo, it was a very memorable console. I didn't own it. I mean, friends of mine had it, but it was a lot of fun, a lot of memories, man. I mean, some of the greatest fighters of all time on there. Your King of Fighters, your Samurai Showdowns, your Fatal Furies, all of it. I mean, the Neo Geo was kind of like arcadey too. It was kind of like in that realm with the Dreamcast, very arcadey, but it had some of the greatest arcade games that I played growing up, and it was like I said, it was a very very fun console too. So I'll give the Neo Geo, I'll put it in the A tier, the A tier. The hell with it. All right, but enjoy the video. All right? Greetings, back with another one. Today I want to mix it up for you guys. I want to do something a little different here. Now I've been for those who've been watching my videos, I'm a gamer. I've always have been a gamer. I've been playing them since the beginning. Well, I mean, I would say the only two consoles that came out before I was born was the Atari. I think they had a Coleco. Well, technically, the gaming console that Gerald Lawson was it Gerald Lawson that he created, and then you had the Atari in the '70s, and then you had the original Nintendo, which was like in '84. So that was like a couple of years before I was born. So I would say the first console that I really got to playing was it was the original Nintendo, but it came out before I was born. But it was really for the Genesis really started things for me. So I just wanted to do this tier list of some of the of the best consoles and stuff like that. Now, let me just say this right off the bat. I am not basing this on software, graphics and memory and speed, load times and all that. I'm not basing it on that. So before people go gear 2 on me, I'm not basing it on that. This is purely just for nostalgic reasons and memories and the impact that this console, based on the games that came out for it, had on me, effect on me while I was growing up. Now, some of these consoles I haven't owned, and some I still want. I haven't got it yet. I see a couple up here. Some of them I've never owned. So I mean, I guess I'll probably just leave it down there for just I never owned it. Okay. All right, we got the Sega Dreamcast at the top. Now, the Sega Dreamcast, it has one of my favorite games of all time on it, and it's a franchise that I really wish that they would pick up again. Capcom made this game. It was a game called Power Stone 1 and 2. Power Stone 2 in particular, the second one was it was better, but that was a franchise that I loved playing. And the Sega Dreamcast, it was a very arcadey console. It had a lot of games that we saw in the arcades, like the Crazy Taxis, and when I first started playing Soul Calibur was in the arcades, and it's just so many games like Hydro Thunder, like NBA Showtime. It was a lot of arcade style games that were on the Sega Dreamcast. But it had another game called what was it called? My buddy had Vigilante 8. It was kind of like a Twisted Metal type game, but it was better than Twisted Metal in my opinion. I loved it. And a buddy of mine, he had it, and I used to go over his house to play it all the time. And and also Street Fighter Third Strike. That was actually my first game that I ever owned when I got the Sega Dreamcast. That was the first game that I got. And for all of the Street Fighter fans out there, I mean, a lot of us still believe that that's still the best one ever made, the Street Fighter Third Strike, the Street Fighter 3 in period. A lot of us still believe that's still number one for us. And yeah, so that had a huge impact on me. So I mean, overall, I'm gonna have to put the Dreamcast in. I'm gonna have to put it in the A tier. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of games for it, but the games that I did play on it, had an effect. Power Stone, especially. I mean, that's by far my favorite game on that console. And let me know which other games that you played on the Dreamcast. Like I said, it wasn't a lot. I don't think Dreamcast has a huge catalog of games, but like I mean, it was fun for what it was, and I really wish that Sega will make another console. There's rumors out there that I think they're working on another console, but like I'm gonna put the Dreamcast in the A tier just because it was a memorable console for me, and it has one of my favorite games of all time, on the Dreamcast. Next up, Nintendo 64. Just like I said in my wrestling gaming video, a lot of people hated on this console. Now, of course, I didn't hear it much back then when I was a kid, but a lot of people did not like the 64, and this is stuff that I hear still today. And it was mainly because of graphic reasons. A lot of people were saying that the graphics were poor and stuff like that, and Nintendo was supposed to, the 64 was supposed to be compact disc, but then they went the cartridge route and stuff like that. I didn't care. So I mean, the 64, like I said, has some of the greatest games ever made. It started the Super Smash Bros. Series. That's where it started. And Smash is, I mean, if you were asked for people's top 10 gaming franchises of all time, I guarantee Smash Brothers would be up there. I mean, that franchise just carries so much weight. It was just a cool concept. How Laboratory, put that all together stuff in the beginning, and they just ran with it, and it's still going. So yeah, I mean, like I said, in my opinion, the greatest wrestling games ever made are on the Nintendo 64. In my opinion, like I said, Revenge, WrestleMania 2000, No Mercy. I mean, they were just, I don't know, and like I said, nostalgia reasons. I can remember the first time I played Revenge, and I think I said this in my last video. My cousin and I, we were, at one of his old middle schools that he went with for the summertime to have recreation and stuff like that, and I was blown away what I saw. They had Killer Instinct Gold. I mean, Killer Instinct originally was on a Super NES, but I'll talk about that. I mean, Killer Instinct was a good franchise. I mean, 007, GoldenEye. That is still one of the best first-person shooters ever made, still. Perfect Dark was a good game. You had Super Mario 64 was great. Donkey Kong 64 was great. Mario Go-Kart 64. That's still one of my, top, 3 out of all of the Mario Go-Kart games I played. The 64, it was a great console to me. I mean, it has some of the best games ever made, and it carried a lot of weight with me. So, I mean, for the 64, this may be controversial for whoever comes across this video, but I'm putting 64 in S class because of the memories. I mean, like I said, just the wrestling games alone. And playing Smash Bros. Like I said, I can live and die on the wrestling games and just Smash Bros. Just for the 64 period. I mean, Star Fox 64 was a good game. I mean, it was just so many great games on the Ocarina of Time. I mean, come on, man. Just a lot of games, man. And I think the 64 had a decent catalog too. But what we got next? The original Nintendo. Huge catalog. Now, the original Nintendo, I didn't have necessarily, but I did play it a lot because my god sister, she had one. And she was a few years older than me. She had one, and I can remember playing all the classic games. Super Mario and Zelda and Metroid and Excite Bike, Dr. Mario, Tetris. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And with like the old Contra game and stuff like that. This was back during the time where Nintendo started experimenting with different games. It wasn't just relying on the Marios, the Zeldas, and the Donkey Kongs and stuff like that. It had a list of games, and I would say like the first couple of Nintendo consoles were doing that. But I mean, like I said, my memory of playing the Nintendo were kind of like glimpses, playing the old Ninja Turtle games and stuff like that. I remember them vividly, but they were kind of like glimpses because I was very, very young. I was like 4 or 5, playing them. So I mean, just because it's the original and it started a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm gonna have to put the Nintendo A tier. Like I said, I'm an old school gamer, so a lot of people may not agree with with this, but I'm gonna put the Nintendo in A tier simply because of that. Next up, PlayStation 1. PlayStation 1 started a lot too. I can remember my brother and I, we came home from school one day. My dad, he bought us a PS1, And I can remember the first couple of games, and like I said, some of the greatest franchises ever made started on the PlayStation 1 as well. But I can remember the first 3 games he bought us. It was this airplane fighter game called Air Combat, and I believe it was another one. It was the second one was Ridge Racer, which was pretty fun. I love Ridge Racer. The music was great. It was just a lot of great memories. And then the next game was Tekken 1, the original Tekken, the first Tekken, and this was what 1994, and I'll never forget it, man. Playing Tekken for hours. Like I said, I spent most time on Tekken, and then I went off and played, Ridge Racer. I put a lot of time on Ridge Racer too, and I got really good at it. But like I said, Tekken, one of the greatest fighting franchises ever made, started on the PS1, and the great wrestling SmackDown games. I would say behind in the 64, the PlayStation, wrestling games early on, the SmackDowns, the first 5 SmackDowns and stuff like that. PlayStation, they were all on the PlayStation games, and so I mean those were fun. A lot of great memories playing that. I mean, PS1 had a big catalog too. I can't even go down the list, but I had this other game called Blast Chamber. It was a cool concept. If you ever heard of that, I mean, I can't even explain it really. It was kind of like a American Gladiators type. It was like a game type of concept, stuff like that. You had to pick up because all of the contestants they had these vests on, and they had timers on them. And if you didn't pick up, like the little piece and put it on your pad to extend your time, if the time depleted, you would just blow up. You would lose a man. So it was 4 players on the stage, and they had to keep doing that. And like pretty much whoever died the less is the one who won. So that was the concept of Blast Chamber. I remember playing that. And there was another game called Fighting Force, which is it was a 3D beat 'em up game. Very fun. Very fun. I remember it had good music on it too. That's a franchise that I wish they would pick up because if you've seen my videos in the past, I love beat 'em ups. So Fighting Force was really fun. Soul Reaver. Also Metal Gear Solid started on the PS1 as well. So like I said, the PlayStation 1, it started a lot of great franchises, a lot of all-time great franchises started on the PS1, and I can't even get down to the list. But yeah, the SmackDown games, Metal Gear Solids, the Tekken and stuff like that. Had some fun basketball games on there too, because I play sports games as well. A lot of fighters. All of the the Street Fighter verse, X-Men, and that had a lot of games on there too. A lot of fighters on there too. But yeah, just rambling as normally. So where I'm gonna put the PS1, I'm gonna have to put the PS1. I'm gonna put it at S class because it started so many great franchises, all-time great franchises. Okay, number 1, PS2. I'm just doing that already because what the PS1 did, PS2 did it better. We got pretty much the great franchises that started on the PS1, like the Metal Gear Solids, the Resident Evils, the SmackDown games, and some of the sports games and stuff like that. Tekken and all that stuff. The PS2 pretty much extended those catalogs, extended those franchises, and of course they got better and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I would say out of the top 3 gaming consoles, PS2 is probably one of them for me. I mean, it has to be. I mean, a lot of people still believe that's probably the best console ever made. I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, this was, I mean, even probably no less than like 6-7 years ago, people been saying that they still say that PS2 is like up there, and I can understand that, man. It had a great catalog. It was just that sweet spot, it was like the late 90s going into the early 2000s, stuff like that. If you're my generation, stuff like that, we were all in middle school when this was going down, and it was just a great time for video games. For another thing, the EA big sports games, PS2. I mean, your Def, and another games, NBA Streets, NFL Street, the Def Jam, Vendettas, Def Jam Fight, man. I would say this is probably the most impactful era of games for me was around the PS2. It's between the PS2 and another console that I would get next to that I will name. But yeah, PS2 S class. I don't know who would disagree with this one, to be honest with you. But yeah, PS2 definitely S class. PS3, I've never owned it. I've never owned it. But like I said, the Sony PlayStation, the Sony consoles, they've always been consistent in terms of just catalog and just all around greatness. A buddy of mine, he had the PS3, and he didn't put, I mean, that much time into it. But like, I believe The Last of Us started on the PS3. Yeah, it did. But I didn't get to play Last of Us until the PS4. So I mean, I got the remastered version, but that was a great game until what happened. But yeah, like I said, not too many memories playing the PS3. I'm sure it had a well in depth catalog, but I gotta just leave it at the bottom because I never owned it. So yeah, PlayStation 4, PS4 is pretty good too. Pretty good too. Basically, just a continuation of all of the great games that started way back in the early '90s, '94, leading up till now. And I have a decent amount of games for the PS4. Probably not as much as the PS2. The PS2 was my biggest catalog of games that I've owned. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I still have a PS4. I bought it used and stuff like that. And I mean, I fire it up every once in a while, but I really want a PS5. Like I said, so. But PS4, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna put it up there. I'll probably put it at a B. What we got next? PS5. I don't have a PS5 yet. I still want one. And when it comes to all these console wars, I don't know if people still have them today, but I would say like currently right now the PS5 is probably doing the best right now. And like I said, another thing, like Sony, like ever since the PS1, the Sony, they have been consistent with these consoles. They have always been great. They've always had a really decent catalog. I mean, when it comes to like single player adventure games, Sony, you can get a great distribution of great franchises, great IPs just on the PlayStation alone. And of course the PS5 is continuing that. But yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, I actually want to throw both the PS3 and the PS5 up there, the A's and stuff like that. But I never owned it. But yeah, but I'll just you know what I'll just put them. I'll put the PS3 in the B and I'll put the PS5 in the A. Just based on what I'm hearing right now. All right, Sega Genesis, one of my top 3 favorite consoles ever. Besides, the 64 and the PS2, this console. I mean, this is the console that really made me fall in love with video games. And I'm throwing it in the S already. But the Sega Genesis made me fall in love with games. It's the reason why I'm a gamer is because of the Sega Genesis. I had the original model. My cousin had the second model. And like this is where my memories for games started. Sega Genesis. I mean, the word Genesis is indicative, right? It was the beginning for me. My favorite gaming franchise of all time is on the Sega Genesis. It started with the Sega Genesis. If you watch some of my previous videos, you know what I'm talking about. Streets of Rage. I can remember the first time I played Streets of Rage. I was at what was it? No, oh yeah. I was living in a complex, an apartment complex at the time, and one of the guys who was living in there, like I said, I had a Genesis, he had one, but I didn't have the Streets of Rage one yet. I didn't get into the second game, but he had the first one. And man, I can just remember playing it, just blown away. I mean, just the music alone in the Streets of Rage games. Yuzo Koshiro, I mean, one of, if not the best composer in gaming, man. I mean, just especially for that time. But yeah, man, Streets of Rage. I mean, the Sonic the Hedgehog games. I mean, come on, man. Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, you had so many different games. One of my favorite fighter of all time. Mortal Kombat started on the Sega Genesis. And especially, I mean, the second one is still my favorite one. But like I said, guys, this is just for nostalgia reasons. This is not for, you know, software and memory and all that stuff and frames and all that stuff. Is not about that. You know, it's just nostalgia. Nostalgia overload is what I call it. Yeah, the Sega Genesis, my top three favorite consoles of all time. That is where my memory started. And there was another game called Pit Fighter that was fun. It just just so many good games, man. So many great games, man. But yeah, Street Fighter. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. Super NES, the Super Nintendo. Another blockbuster for me. Great catalog. I would say this the Super NES probably delved me deeper into fighters. I did play Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2 for the Genesis, but I would say I probably got into fighters a little bit more playing the Super Nintendo. I would say probably the first few games. Like I said, my dad, he bought my brother and I the Super NES, and I would say the first couple of games he bought us were fighters. Street Fighter 2 Turbo. We had a fighting game we had a Double Dragon fighting game. It was a verse battle fighting game. It was fun. But yeah, I would say Super NES really got me into fighters. And of course, the Mario games. Again, the Mario games. The Donkey Kong games, Zelda, Metroid, Star Fox. Star Fox started with the Super NES. Great sports games. And like I said, this was the first the first three Nintendo consoles, the original Super NES and 64, they really were. It was a lot of different companies. This is what makes 90s gaming so special, because we didn't have all of the monopolies that we have today, where it's just one company just dominating everything. Oh, like it'd be like, I can count, like, it's probably a handful of companies that's just dominating all of these IPs. In the 90s, you really didn't have that. There was a lot of different companies who were able to experiment and try their hand. Like if there was a company that was coming out with this basketball game and it wasn't that really good, and you could play another basketball game that this company made. So many fighters and beat 'em ups and stuff like that, and adventure games and stuff like that. It's just, the 90s was just a good time for gamers, man, because you had so many different varieties of genres of games that were created by different companies, so you were able to see what different studios can do. And that's kind of gone away today, man. But yeah, Super NES, I'll put it in S class, because the memories that I have, with the Genesis, it kind of, there's a correlation there with the Nintendo. I'll put it up there with S class, because like I said again, the love that I have for the Genesis, it kind of transcended to the Super NES, so it's up there. So I'm gonna just throw it in S class as well. Excuse me. What we got? The Switch, Nintendo Switch. I have a Switch, and right now I've recently just got Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. I know the game has been out for a couple of years, but I just got into it. Now, I love all of the Warrior games, the Dynasty Warrior games, the Koei Team Ninja team that makes all the games and stuff like that. It's a great concept, great idea, and I got Smash Brothers. I got Smash Brothers Ultimate for the Switch, and I got Mario Odyssey and Hyrule Warriors. Like I said, I only have like a handful of games on the Switch. I don't have too much, but like I said, this is going into the current era stuff now. So like, I'm very selective with games today, with these consoles today. But Switch, it's just, I'll put it in B. I'll put it in B. Like I said, it's not a bad console. Like I said, it's just a continuation of all of the other games that we've got from the past Nintendo consoles. The Wii U, I never owned it. I never owned a Wii U. My friend, he has one. But just a continuation of, like, Nintendo's pretty easy. Nintendo's a pretty easy, even if you don't have them, you're always going to get your Marios, your Zeldas, and your your Donkey Kong. You know you're always gonna get those structured games and stuff like that. You know, the Pokemon games and stuff like that. So I mean, Wii U, from what I see, wasn't a bad console. Wasn't bad. You know, I'll put it in C. The first Wii. Now, when the Wii came out, it was very different. I mean, just okay. If there's one console that I'm going to talk about in terms of the hardware, just how it looks, the Wii was very different. It was very different. I mean, when they had those nunchaku controllers and stuff like that, when I first saw that, me and my buddies first saw it, we're like, what the hell is this? I mean, the Chaku, Joy Cons, whatever controllers. It was the first Nintendo console where you were able to be immersive with the game and stuff like that. With the movements and stuff like that. It was kind of like how, the Xbox Connect and stuff like that. Like the Wii U. I mean, the Wii had games where you can like the Wii sports games, stuff like that. Nintendo console was the first Nintendo console to be immersive with the game in terms of moving and all of the sensors and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, and I remember like I said, I have a lot of memories playing Smash Brothers Brawl on the Wii. Now, in my personal opinion, I think Brawl was probably the worst one out of. Like I said, Brawl was overall. I mean, it's still Smash Brothers, right? It wasn't a horrible game, but I would say it was probably the lesser out of all of the the Smash games that I played. But like I said, the funny thing is, my buddies and I, we spent a lot of time playing online matches on Smash Brothers Brawl, because when Brawl came out, we were so excited because it was the first Smash Brothers to introduce Smash Ball, the final Smash Supers in the game. So we were blown away when we saw that. So we put in a lot of time playing Brawl, even though it frustrated the hell out of us when we played it. But I mean, just Smash Brothers alone, we put a lot of time in. And of course, you got your Mario games and Donkey Kong's, all those games, stuff like that. But because of all of the immersive, stuff that you had to do with the Wii, it wasn't really for me. I'm a firm believer, if you want to have those games where you're being immersive and in terms of having to move your body and stuff like that, I would say leave that for the arcades. Leave that for the arcades, like when you have to interact all that stuff, because that's what the arcades for. The arcade games, you had like the cabinets that had the guns where you had to use the guns and aim them at the screen, and you had your boxing games where you had to put the little motion capture stones and box and stuff like that. That's what the arcade game. That's what the arcades were to interact and be immersive and stuff like that. Using your body and stuff like that. So I didn't think that was a place for home consoles to do, but Nintendo wanted to be different, and they really caught an eye. And it was like I said, the Wii was really popular amongst kids. I can't remember the sales, but I think it had, because this was a time between the 360 and the PS. I believe 3 time, it was that era, and I think the Wii sales were through the roof, because it really was a big hit with kids. So the Wii, I mean, I'll put it in D. I'll put it in D. I had it, but it just outside of Smash Brothers, I really didn't care for that much. I think I actually sold my gave mine away. It just didn't carry that much weight with me outside of Smash. Okay, 360, Xbox 360. Now, because I didn't like I said, I didn't have a PS3. I had the Wii and I had the 360. But the Xbox 360 is when, I mean, that era, the Wii, the 360, and the PS3. This era is where online gaming really started to explode. The multiplayer and all this stuff. It really started with this era. And right off the bat, I mean, like I said, out of those three, I would say that the 360 probably won this battle, mainly because of the online communication and stuff like that. Like online multiplayer was very, very big during this era. And I'm already going to put it, I'm already going to put it in S class for this reason and this reason alone. My second favorite gaming franchise of all time started on the 360. And what franchise I'm talking about? Gears of War. you're getting the S just because of that. You're getting the S because of that. Even though, like I said, it started the Halo series too. Halo was very big. People loved Halo, but I was more of a Gears head. When I first played Gears, like I said, I played the second Gears first. I got into it a little late, but once I got into the second one, played it, loved it, went back and played the first one, played the campaign, played the multiplayer and stuff, and I loved it. Gears, it's my favorite shooter of all time. I don't give a damn if it's first person or third person. It's my favorite shooter of all time. My second favorite gaming franchise of all time. I just love the camaraderie between Marcus and Dom, Cole and Bit. I just love that. I love just the smash mouth, just the gruff, the grit, and also the humor of those characters and stuff like that. And of course, I love the violence and the gore and all that stuff, the executions and stuff like that. Epic, they did a phenomenal job with the that franchise. Well, particularly the first 3 games, because after Gears 3, then TC took over the license and stuff like that. But Gears is my top 3 franchise of all time, top 3. And like I said, Xbox 360, it was a great console. I mean, it had it introduced the marketplace where you can buy arcade games in the marketplace and stuff like that. The multiplayer was great. The communication between your friends and stuff like that with the headsets and all that stuff. I would say that the Xbox 360, it was the superior console to the PlayStation 3 because of that reason. I mean, the PS3 had it too, but for some reason, I can remember my buddy, because my buddy had the PS3, and the PS3, from what he said, it was so many bugs, and the PlayStation Network was always down and all that stuff. A lot of PlayStation 3 owners complained about that a lot. It's just the network was down. It had a lot of bugs and stuff. I don't know. That's just what I heard, from my friend and for the people who had a PS3. But yeah, man, when it came to communication and multiplayer, man, the 360, it was up there for that reason, at least in my opinion. And of course, it had a great catalog of games. Your Gears of War, your Halos, and of course, it was the continuation of all these other franchises that started on the earlier consoles back in the 90s. You had your Street Fighters and your Mortal Kombat. That's because, like I said, Sega, was no more, and Nintendo at that point stopped making those kind of third party, IPs, and then Xbox, and then Microsoft and then Sony took them over. Because Nintendo and Sega, they were gone pretty much in terms of third party, and they mainly were just and Nintendo got to this point where it started focusing on first party games and stuff like that. You had your third parties, but they lost a lot of those IPs, and Sony and Microsoft took them over. But what we got now, Xbox One. It's like I said, it's a continuation of what the 360 did. I have one. Don't have a lot of games for it. I guess I'll put it in, C. Like I said, it wasn't a bad console. It wasn't bad, But like I said, we're getting further down, closer to present time now. So yeah, it was just like I said. I have Gears 4 and was Gears 5 on Xbox One? Was it? Yeah, it was. Yeah, Gears 4 and 5. So, of course, had a lot of time on the Xbox One just playing Gears, playing, the NBA 2K games and stuff like that. And like I said, the 2K game started on Dreamcast, so that was another franchise that I love playing. They started on the Dreamcast, so yeah, I had fun times with that. And then, of course, Sega stopped making consoles, and then another third party IP that was taken over by Sony and Microsoft. So, it was a lot of, IPs that kind of was taken over by Sony and Microsoft. So this is around a time where, some of those IPs were being shared by both those platforms. But like I said, Xbox One, it wasn't a bad console. Just a continuation of what the 360 did. But as far as memories, this is a time where I was kind of playing more alone, and I wasn't really playing that much multiplayer outside of Gears. But Xbox One, yeah, it's fine. Not too many memories though. Okay, Xbox Series X. I have the Series S, and that's the next gen console that I'm currently playing because I don't have a PS5 yet. So when it comes to X, as yeah, the X I think has more memory and it may be a little bit stronger in terms of whatever. But yeah, again, you know what? Let me do the Xbox first. Like I said, I don't have the original Xbox. I don't. But like I said, my buddy had it, so I went to his house and played it all the time. Very decent catalog. Halo was probably like the biggest, IP on the original Xbox. I mean that console was big as a damn suitcase. Like I said, I don't have it, but it started Halo, and I mean just that franchise alone carries a lot of weight. So I mean, just for the Halo fans out there who loved it, I'll give it a B, I guess you can say. I'll put it up there. I'll put it up there. Like I said, I'm very easy when it comes to this stuff. I'm not that critical of stuff like that. I'm very easy when it comes to that. So the 360, I keep saying 360, the series. Okay, this is series, Xbox Series. Like I said, I'm currently playing it. Don't have a lot of games for it, but the games I do have, I love it. Of course, Gears. Your NBA 2Ks, love playing them. Was on and on. I was on and off with Overwatch. The Marvel Rivals game just came out. I've played it with my buddies. Not much as they have, but I've been playing it. I just got Space Marine 2, and I need to make some content of just playing that game. I need to capture some content. I love it. And I know it's on the PlayStation as well. But like I said, this is the point where this is the time, and that's the one thing. The one thing I will say about the series that is lacking, we don't have a lot of what do you call them, exclusives. That's the one thing that currently the PlayStation 5 has over that Sony has over Microsoft right now. Microsoft is very lacking in exclusive right now. The only exclusive that I can think of off the back is Gears. I can't think of another exclusive. I guess Halo. Are they still making Halo games? But yeah, you have tons of exclusives on, Sony right now. And and like I said, the series is fine. Like I said, I'm having fun with it, But I'll put it at a because of the lack of exclusive, I'll put it at a B, I guess, But yeah, like hope to see some exclusives for Microsoft. I doubt we get that, and because of Microsoft, they're really banking on their Game Pass, so they could just throw all those catalogs in there and stuff like that. But excuse me, I personally don't think it's enough. And I think Microsoft is getting their asses kicked by Sony right now. That's just my assumption. Correct me if I'm wrong about that. But like I said, Series is not bad. It's not a bad console. I would say my biggest judgment or my biggest criticism is just the lack of exclusives. What we got? Sega Saturn. Sega Saturn. I never owned a Saturn. But one of my childhood friends, he had one. And the Sega Saturn, it was this console really experimented with the, I don't even know how you say it, but they started, it was a couple of games where they used like real real people models to make some of those games. I remember my friend, he had, like I said, he only had like a couple of games for us. Like I said, I don't really know the catalog that much for the Saturn. I really don't. But I believe Virtua Fighter started on the Saturn, so Virtua Fighter, one of the all-time great fighters, and of course they had the Sonic games, the Sonic CD and stuff like that, and I believe Sonic Racing started on Sonic Racing was on Saturn. But my friend, he had like this basketball game, but it was like a Scottie Pippen featured basketball game, street version, and basically how they made those games, you just had the actor or the model in front of a blue screen, and then they're just playing out what they're doing in front of a blue screen. That's like the Saturn had games like that. I remember it, and it was weird, but that was just the experiment at the time. So yeah, not a lot of memories with the Saturn, so I really can't give a full judgment on it. But yeah, like I said, I would say outside of Virtua Fighter, I really didn't play the Saturn that much. I mean, he didn't either because he didn't have a lot of my friend. He didn't have a lot of games for it either. So yeah, so the Saturn for me kind of came and went. Like I said, feel free to name the catalog of games you have for the Saturn. I just like I said, I never owned a Saturn, so I really can't go in depth with it. So yeah, okay. Nintendo GameCube. Well, I would say based on what the 64 did, do I think that the GameCube excels in terms of exclusives and catalogs? Do I think it supersedes the 64? I can't say. I can't say, and the reason for that is because when it came to the GameCube, that's kind of when the experimentation kind of went away. It started with the regular the original Nintendo and then the Super NES and the 64, and I think that's when it was kind of slowing down when the GameCube came out. But like I said, GameCube had great exclusives though. Of course, like I said, again, you got your Mario's, your Donkey Kongs, your Zeldas. Majora's Mask to me is one of the greatest Zelda games ever. Majora Mask, it was just so different. It was just so different. The wrestling games on there, they were fun. They were cool. You had Day of Reckoning. Day of Reckoning was a fun game. WrestleMania 19, I believe, that was fun. It wasn't better than the 64 wrestling games, but my buddies and I, we had fun with it. Like I said, we're all easy. So we're not gonna be too harsh and stuff like that. And Smash Brothers Melee, I'm proud to know that for a lot of people, Smash Brothers Melee was probably the most competitive. I mean, when I've been on Twitch, people are still playing Smash Melee competitively. Still, people are still playing it. So I mean, Smash Melee is kind of like in that realm of Street Fighter 3. I mean, like I said, I told you, around this time, this is where gaming got really competitive. From your Dreamcast and your PS2s and your GameCubes, like that era, right before the 360 and that era hit. Before that, the 360, PS3, and GameCube era, it was kind of like tournament fighting. At least from my conscience, at least from what I seen, tournament fighting really blew up around this time. And I can remember, Street Fighter 3 being in tournaments. Like I said, Street Fighter 3 was for the Dreamcast, I believe. I don't know if it was for any other consoles. I don't know. I don't know if they put it on the PS two. I don't know. But I could remember just around that time, Melee was very big in tournaments. Street Fighter 3 was very big in tournaments. Yeah, and they still had some 007 games that was for the GameCube, which was fun. My buddy, he had his game called Time Splitters, was a first-person shooter. It was pretty fun, very different. It was a game called Self Damage, which it was kind of like a shell-shaded version of a Vigilante 8 or a Twisted Metal. It was like a cell-shaded version of it. Pretty fun. Like I said, I actually had Def Jam Vendetta and Fight for New York for the GameCube. So in terms of playing Smash and playing those games, it was. I mean, there was some memories there because I believe that the Def Jam, fighting games, the wrestling and Fight for New York. I mean, I think that franchise needs to be, revitalized or revived, how you say, because that was just a cool concept. You having all those, those rap artists, those MCs in a fighting game. Like, who would have thought of that? I mean, that was pretty cool. So, I mean, I know that the EA big games, they were for the PS2 too. I mean, I had NBA Street and NFL Street for the PlayStation 2. But I don't know why. But for some reason, I don't know why. But I got Def Jam Vendetta and Fight for New York for the GameCube. I don't know why. I guess because right around the time the GameCube came out, I just said, hey, it's on this console too, so let me just go ahead and get it. So yeah, oh, Metroid games. The GameCube, like when Metroid Prime was the first Metro game where you're playing with Samus in the first person. I actually thought that was better than the older ones, with the side scrolling platform and stuff like that. I love the Metroid Prime concept because Samus, she uses her gun, so turn it into like a first person shooter. I thought that was a brilliant idea for Nintendo to do that. And my boy Flame, who I love like a brother, he's like a brother to me. He's a huge Metroid fan. He's a Samus fan. Like on Smash, Samus was his favorite character. So he had all of the Metroid games, and I would love just sitting there just watching him play. And I remember watching him play Metroid Prime and Echoes and stuff like that. And it was so cool just to see Samus in the first person view. I actually thought that worked better for her with a different array of weaponry that she can use and stuff like that. And I just thought that was cool. And it started on the GameCube. I never got them because my friend had them, my boy had them, so I just watched him play it. But yeah, the GameCube, I'll put it at an A. I'll put it at an A because, just Smash and like I said, the exclusives that they had at the time, Majora's Mask and, Mario Sunshine was fun, and just the Donkey Kong games were fun. I'll put it at an A. I'll put it at a B. I said A or B. I'll move it at an A. I'll move it at an A. But yeah, guys, that's my tier list. Like I said, this is not based on, memory and RAM and speed and loading times and graphics and frame rate. And, it's not based on none of that stuff. It's just nostalgia. It's just, which consoles carry the most weight with me from a memory standpoint, and just playing with friends and stuff like that. It's just a combination of all that. It just pretty much, like I said, this is, between the ages of 4 and 13, 14. That's kind of like the sweet spot between the ages of 4 and 14. Like that 10 years, those are the consoles that, the ones at the top had a lot of weight with me. But yeah, guys, let me know what your tier list is, man. I've seen a lot of people on YouTube doing them, and I said I just had to jump on this, man, because I'm a gamer, you're a gamer, we're all gamers, man. So yeah, man. 31 cents added, another one for the archives. It's your brother Bleak signing out. And until next time, you guys. See you next time.